All right, so for the eye culture assignment, you're going to open up this template. And if you read through the rubric, you're going to include 9 different app icons. And a lot of that has to do with making sure everything looks nice and clean and symmetrical. My first recommendation is go ahead and zoom yourself in to at least 100% using the zoom tool. Anytime you're doing something graphic, doing it way zoomed out is going to make it not look all that great. I'm also going to click on these directions and I'm just going to delete them so they're out of my way and they stop kind of messing me up, right? Now, first thing I'm going to do is insert an image. These images should have something to do with you. When you insert an image, if you happen to have something saved on your computer, you can upload it. For 90% of this, you are probably going to just search the web for things that represent you. But if you have a picture of your family or your dog or something like that, you can always put it on your Google Drive, on your Google Photos, or save it to your computer and just upload it that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search the web because one of the things that is about me, one of my hobbies is backpacking. So I'm going to type that in and look for an image that I think would be a good icon for backpacking. It might represent something. I think that's kind of a cool one there. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that. One of the first things that I'm going to notice is that it is obviously way too big. Also, it's rectangular, right? So my icons, I need to be square. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my crop tool up here and just use it as a traditional cropping tool and grab these edges and make it a little bit closer to being square. And I only need to eyeball this, but I like that. It's going to get rid of the rest of it. I press enter. Now it's pretty perfectly square. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my formatting options, and it pops up here. These only appear when you have the image selected. I open up formatting options. All of my sizes are going to be exactly the same. So I want all of my icons to be 1.5 by 1.5 inches. So the width is 1.5, my height 1.5, and now it is exactly, and I'm just going to use those same dimensions for every single app icon, and they'll just naturally match. I'm also going to scroll down here and I'm going to take a look at recolor. There is one requirement that at least one of your app icons needs to be recolored. I actually like the color of this one, but when you find one that you want to recolor, here is the options for recoloring. It just adds kind of a cool coloring filter. One of the other options on here is to add a drop shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on drop shadow. And I like to add a little bit to the distance. Makes it a little bit easier to see. Otherwise, the effect is almost invisible. And then I'm not going to do a reflection. That looks weird. But the last thing I'm going to add to this app icon to make it look like an actual icon is I'm going to add a different type of masking or cropping. Right. So I'm going to click on this little arrow this time instead of just clicking on the image. So when I click on this arrow, I get a whole bunch of different shape options. One of the options is a rounded square. I click on that and you can see now it's a rounded app icon. And I'm going to put this over here, put it right there. Now, my next step here is to go ahead and continue to add images. So I'm just going to actually do this sort of a cheater way. I already have one here sort of built out, right? And then I have another one here that I already sort of have built out. I'm going to have to maybe do some steps on that one, make sure it actually is the right size, right? 1.5 by 1.5. I'm going to have to round the edges to some of these, and I'm going to have to make sure I have it drop shadowed and all that kind of good stuff. Boop. But you can see how fast, once you know what you're doing, that you can do that to all of these. All right. So now I have three of my 9 app icons. And let's just say I'm horrible at lining stuff up. Let's just say I think that's lined up. It's very clearly and obviously not lined up. I'm going to use the shift tool to click and hold down the shift button on my keyboard, which will allow me to select all 3 of these app icons in a row. Then I'm going to go to arrange, align, and I'm going to line up their tops. So it's like taking a ruler on there and just lining them up on that perfect ruler. The second thing I'm going to do is called distribution. These are not spaced evenly. So again, I can go to arrange, distribute, and I'm going to distribute these horizontally because I want them side to side to be lined up. And now they are perfectly lined up, and I can move them around as a goal or as a group. Perfectly lined up, perfectly spaced out. That's how the rest of my apps should end up being. Now that these are perfectly lined up and spaced out, what I'm going to do is add a text box underneath each of them. Remember, that was one of the options or one of the requirements within the actual rubric. Here's the rubric as a reminder, right? So we've got 9 apps. We've got 3 of them that are linked. We'll get to that later, but really we're looking at the design right down here where we want to make sure everything is nice and even and square. And you can kind of look at the example over here. So again, I'm going to go ahead and insert a text box. I'm going to click right underneath this. I'm not going to make it very big because I remember I need to allow room for 2 more rows worth of apps. I'm going to probably do this in size maybe 7 or something like that. I'm going to put in just a description. You know, I enjoy the outdoors and backpacking. Maybe I'll make that a little bit bigger. 7 might be a little small. Maybe I want to center it. Maybe I want to change the font, whatever I want to do. But whatever I do there, I need to do to all of my others app icons, right? And I keep on building that. If I need to zoom out or scroll down, and you should end up with essentially something that looks like this. If I were to zoom in, 3 rows of 3 for a total of 9 app icons. That's part 1. Part 2 is where we're going to hyperlink these, create the nonlinear linking, and do some more special effects. And that's where we're at. All right. So go ahead and get started on part 1.